Resident Evil 5 was due to go in this list, but that's probably a subject for another time now. I will come back to it, but yeah, it does fit the brief. It's a third-person ARPG shooter, and a very good one, and a split-screen one. We will get to one other split-screen ARPG in a second. Just want to discuss the brief. You might be thinking, what a weird group of games, but it's actually a very popular direction for a lot of new AAA games to go in, and some really good legacy titles. We're looking at Outriders. I am Couch Cute, by the way. One of the stipulations for this list are obviously guns and monsters. I want to stay as much in the military sphere and sci-fi canon as possible, so I've sort of grouped quite a lot of modern games, and I want to get some of the old odds and sods out of the way, Outriders being one of them. Billed as a sort of online service game, it was coming with loads of updates, loads of new enemies, new levels. The whole thing was very much moving forward, and then they sort of stepped back a little bit on its support. I also am a bit shocked at the quality of this footage. It's pulled off my YouTube channel from 2020, and yeah, the resolution isn't great. I uploaded at 60 frames per second, I think. I want to mention this game because it includes both cover and really cool over-the-shoulder camera mechanics when pushing in that trigger. That's going to be a staple for every single one of these games. Cover, maybe not. And also, online only is something else that is coming up. Evil West does also get a mention. It got its own standalone review on the PlayStation 5 and performs at 4K. Not always a pegged frame rate, but this is a lot of fun, and again, obeys that brief brilliantly, but it's just not as strong as what we've got coming up. But I did want to put it out there. Mate, your Vanquish obsession is getting out of hand, and everybody thought that this may be a lot closer to the end of the video. I just can't justify A, talking about it again because it's frequently on the channel, B, ruining everyone's day by slipping this in at number 1, and C, I'm so eager for this to be remade or sequeled or something happen about it. It actually pains me to praise it because this is where all of that love started with me for 8th, 9th and 10th gen cover-based action shooter ARPG games. Vanquish is one of the best, but we're getting it out of the way early doors. Are we still on odds and sods? We are still on odds and sods. This is Xenomorph Exoprimal is its correct title. 4-player online is soloable, but again, a little bit like the Outriders situation. This sits online. You need a login to even get to that front screen, but it does shine. It is from Capcom. Made very few mistakes. I had a lot of fun with this, and if you're aware of all of the games they're going to talk about and not paid this a visit, currently sits on Game Pass. Really worth looking at if you're a fan of the genre, particularly the dino slaughter area of it all.
The enemy team has just
multiple standalone reviews from my good self, including patch reviews and a really cool Monster Hunter collaboration that's coming up in the near future. I will keep you posted on that. A little bit like the Vanquish situation, I am guilty of talking about Returnal way too much. One of the reasons it was our first real true PlayStation 5 exclusive. Second reason is Housemarque are kind of worshipable as a studio for my good self. They came out with brilliant arcade-based local co-op games, and this has just had a 2024 review for all of the new stuff that's been put in it, including online multiplayer, and it kind of works really well. The game is still fresh feeling, and apparently they're moving away from the IP, so can't be helped. Really wanted to get it mentioned at the start of the list because again, this one could have crept in and won at the top. I think this might be our last odd and sod. It is Remnant 1, a game I invested way too many hours into, and it is really a true modern classic. This plays brilliantly over on the PlayStation 4 Pro and runs at a beautiful spec that's boosted for the PlayStation 5. If you're into the second game, you need to go back and look at this original. It's stunning. So this is one of our first official entries, Aliens Fireteam Elite, a game that appeals to me on 2 levels. It's a great ARPG shooter with a really intuitive cover system, a little bit reminiscent of Splinter Cells. It does get you in a little bit of a sticky panic sometimes, but it is an okay Aliens bug shooter, and that's the second reason I'm into it, is it does the lore quite a lot of cool justice. It sort of dips its toe into the Cameron's Aliens canon, but also leans towards some of that weird shit we saw in Prometheus and Covenant, so you get a bit of a wash of both of those 2 worlds. There's not much suspense and solitary alien isolation feels about this game. It is an out-and-out blaster, and that's exactly what I wanted on purchase. I have finished that base level main campaign, and if you look over to the top right, you will see that hardcore mode symbol, which I think is kind of trying to play the game a little bit like roguelike runs, where you die or lose a character permanently if they do not make it through a level. And it also, patronizingly enough, keeps asking you if you're sure you want to go through this without any online people or real humans playing with you. And I will say this hand on heart, Alpha and Beta as AI partners are absolutely cracking. They will never mistakenly shoot you in the back, and if you return the favour, they will never tell you off. It's complete opposite to playing online. The game does come with a very healthy role to avoid, which is almost like the swan dive from Call of Duty. It's massive, takes you for a very long distance and gets you clean out of loads of trouble. It's also got extremely snappy weapon switchover, there is no delay on it all, and there is a smaller loadout, so making decisions on what you're going to take out is quite important. There's the smart gun build, which is completely different to that normal tactical rifle. It also comes with additional content in the form of that pathogen update. I played this game right the way through, offline and single player, only using those 2 AI bots, and it was pretty damn cool, to be honest. And I am looking forward to looking at that pathogen stuff. A couple of things put me off. The fact that it's quite expensive for a piece of DLC, and what I've seen, it heavily leans into the Prometheus set of ideas. So come back to me on that one if you've played it. Is it worth making that jump? And talking of jumps, let's talk about this alien behavior and enemy AI. It's absolutely awesome. They stick to the walls and run on the side of corridors perfectly. Even the sound design and a lot of the musical cues directly line up with the panic that you would feel after watching an Aliens film. I was also really concerned that this wasn't going to be as strong as advertised, but it totally is, and it's also very good online co-op because you've got to watch each other's backs. There is friendly fire, and some of the supportive specials and synergies with loadouts is pretty amazing, and I think we're going to see a little bit more on this game. Hopefully some discount on that DLC, or even all of it bundled in to something more affordable. It also does a pretty damn good job with the Hive and the Juggernaut Prometheus ship. I will link both of those videos. I sort of did a tour of those levels. I was that impressed with them. And I just reviewed Dark Descent, which is really amazing for a real-time RTS.
Clear Sino. I mean, what come mierda, but leaving this out was a good idea.
Shouldn't this be in odds and sods? No, Gears 5 should not be in odds and sods. I've recently been playing the Hivebuster DLC, which is of no cost, and man, I'm gonna give this whole section to split screen, and just remember what Fireteam looked like, or even Outriders at the start of the video. This game doesn't care that the screen splits, still stunning everywhere.
Without brave soldiers fighting back on the boat, you can rest assured that this is only a temporary measure to ensure the survival of our best and right.
All of these cool elements that we've been talking about, including the cover, including that snappy over-the-shoulder view, are included in Gears, but they got it right back on its release, which is 2019, and it goes head level with everything else that's coming up on the list. That's why I included it so high. I've been recently getting back into it, both on a single player and couch co-op level, and it's been so impressing me, making the jump from anything like Remnant or even Exoprimal. You're just at home with these core mechanics, and they really were in the right place at the inception of Gears 5. I cannot wait to see what Cliff's going to come up with. It's 5 years.
I see you! I'm coming!
Running a semi-Sony focused channel has been quite difficult to constantly sing this game's praises, particularly on a split screen level. Because of its Microsoft exclusivity, it is a game that only gets spoken about with people who are focused on those machines, but it's just too damn good to ignore, and it's too strong, and that 2019 heritage, and it's still holding up to everything that gets thrown at it today. It makes it an undeniable, excellent ARPG shooter.
Clear.
We need to get to the thermal control room.
This world famous Horde mode on a co-op online level is almost unbeatable, but again that format has got a little bit drained after half a decade, so the bunker buster stuff is absolutely amazing. You've got a blend of Horde sections combined with a bit of story and a sprinkle of intrigue against the characters. It's kind of a new injection and well worth going back and taking a look at. Let's get to that RE4 Remake, dripping with awards from 2023 and won a lot of accolades from my good self. It is an absolutely amazing third-person ARP shooter, and it's also coming from the horror level, but it does have its fair share of suspense, crazy bug aliens, and just shooting over the shoulder till the cows come home. This is the PlayStation 5 version, and it sports quite a lot of pretty cool tech, including ray tracing. And it also has a mercenaries mode, which we'll look at in a second, and that's why it's so high on the list. Along with its suspenseful horror and pretty cool story, this game goes hard with an amazing arena score-based mode, which for me stands above a lot of that single-player content. I know that's probably not everybody's idea of how to enjoy that game, but Ada Wong, still hot as, Sweet Baby Ink? It's also well good on its military hardware. I know Resident Evil 3 took it quite seriously, but I love the way you reload weapons, take a look at everything inside your box and move all your stuff around, including attachments and scopes. The sheer variety of stuff that you can experiment with in this game alongside the ordnance and even melee close quarter weapons is mind-blowing, and they sort of injected a little bit more variety with this remake, especially with the way some of the enemies are behaving and just the waves that come at you, particularly in that mercenaries mode. I promise I'll stop talking about it soon.
Starting to become a giant pain in my ass.
It's also very much solo experience. I do still love that with a lot of the Resident Evil games, is that they're still taking that single player, cool campaign, rich content to the forefront of their games as opposed to an online only experience. I know that's part and parcel of the franchise, but you've got to remember we are living in some seriously strange times with single player games, making that leap over to online or online only. So it's very cool to see this one get a damn good nod on the awards and still look so damn strong against other AAA games with its visuals. I love all its new tech. Please, just give us Vanquish looking like this and I will die happy. So Remnant from the Ashes is technically, there's still one more game, the pinnacle of third-person ARPG shooters. It is also online and a smashing single-player experience. Whole thing can be done on your own, trust me, you will lose hair, but it's worth it. It also completely smashes the Souls-like scene, being one of the strongest in the genre, full stop. That goes for its original Remnant 1 game. But there's more. It is also a roguelike, rolling out all of its levels and bosses and drops and everything. I'm on my third playthrough on this game and I've got stuff I've never seen before happening to me on every corner I turn around. It's absolutely incredible. One playthrough on this game is by far not enough. Think almost near Automata-like 22 endings.
What is this place?
I've also been lucky enough to play it on two different systems. First off, the PlayStation 5, and it is my preferred place to play it. It's kind of very well optimized for that console. What I mean by that is consistent frame rates and quite a high resolution, but no performance or quality toggle to my knowledge. The second experience is with my PC and my GTX 1660, which is not a powerful PC by any stretch. This is a difficult one to find the sweet spot on, but once you do, there are loads of toggles and sliders, and you can sort of muck around with draw distance and detail on effects.
Impossible. Where did you come from? How did you find Nerud? You should not even exist.
It's also its level variation and theme that bleeds into the enemies, even some of the aesthetic on armors or weapons you'll find in that area. I know this is stretching things a bit, but I get a big Prometheus alien vibes with this level, and I found a Bloodborne themed sort of old Yharnam style level, which I put a single video out about. I was so impressed with. Again, did not see it on my second playthrough, and also this Geiger-esque landscape. First time I've ever clapped eyes on it. Remember, this is my third visit of the game. Why is it better than Remnant 1? Well, that reroll system is more randomized. It's got a vaster area of variables to encounter, increasing that sort of longevity with wanting to replay the game again. It's also got a lot more weaponry than the original game, and that goes for the enemy variety and mini-boss and big boss type. It doesn't have enough cosmetic armor or loot drops or crafting of said cosmetics. Very difficult to actually completely change your look. You have to do it with these archetypes. I wish that one was as healthy as it was in Remnant 1. By fighting a giant piece of mutant chewing gum, that snappiness on the roll, everything is just so in touch with its control scheme. A brilliant, brilliant game.
Freedom forever!
Assuming this is not a nod and sod? No, this is number one, and it's a bit of a shock win because it edged in front of Remnant 2, but it doesn't have technically any single player content. The caveat with this game is you need base level PlayStation Essential access, which is the minimal cost per month to actually play the game. Over on Steam, I don't think that's the same deal. Can I get some comments, please? I feel a personal connection with Helldivers 1, and this channel, regulars will know, it was one of the first ever games to be reviewed, and its local co-op prowess really set it in front of loads of other twin sticks that were around at the time. It held its ground for years, and it was one of the strongest games to come out of that studio. They also put together a brilliant Gauntlet remake, which I recommend you all look at, because I'm pretty sure loads of people realise that Arrowhead are not a half-assed studio. Helldivers 2 has also technically managed the unmanageable. It's come through as a bit of a phenomenon in the industry. What I mean by that is that it's a decent sequel and a brilliant nod to its previous game, but it's also wrestling the whole thing online and hasn't deterred its audience due to it just having sheer brilliant gameplay ideas. Everything feels fresh, but technically none of it is, but it's just all in the right place for a third-person action ARPG. It handles the bug hunting better than the Aliens game, and that is saying something. Elite is not terrible, and the panic and the rush of all these creatures coming towards you, but this is amped up tenfold because you're also worrying about your teammates. There's a very harsh friendly fire system, and everything just gets pushed towards the adrenaline because it's got a bit of procedural with where everything's going to happen, where you get dropped in that map. It's kind of a reroll system, and it is very addictive. This is one of the few games I've craved to get online and play. I've recently had my PlayStation 5 moved, and I've missed this massively. Touching on that friendly fire aspect, the stratagem system with them damaging anything underneath them, when things are panicked you need to start thinking about where that's going to land and worrying about what everyone else needs or what you've dropped and lost. You are constantly wanting to put this stuff down, but at the same time distracted by the randomized hordes of enemies coming in at you from any direction. This is also very predominant when fighting the robot race, which is very cool.
Bag's empty!
It did, however, suffer some major bugs, pun intended, on launch, but this was really pointed to the game being overpopulated and the designers or developers just not preparing on a server front. It wasn't like a broken game with code and stuff not happening with an engine. That was all perfect. It was just getting into a lobby was the only thing obstructing it. It's all kind of cool now. There has been a very recent update that's put a few jaws out of line, but everything else is pretty damn cool still. We've just seen fire tornadoes, and we've got the mechs dropping in, which if you're a fan of the original game, you know is going to be a big change. It's also boasting that online service model, which means that we're going to get updated with new stuff. I can only hope there isn't an Outriders situation. Recently there's been a 70% drop in the user base. I don't know if it was just a honeymoon period on its first 6 weeks of launch, but I think it will plateau. I think there'll be a big healthy user base for this game, both on the PlayStation 5 and on PC. And you never know, down the line, Phil Spencer, things go so crazy and the Xbox community is so gutted they don't have access to this, that there could be a change in the future.
Enemy tactical asset within range.
Here's the thing about the solo content also, is that there are vast ways of this game that you can do on your own, and it's kind of my preferred method, and then people will join organically, so it's quite cool to sort of go in and then call an SOS if you desperately start getting stuck. People will come in and quite literally pull you out of the mire. But as said on the launch review of this game, if you're paying that money for the PlayStation access, and if this game is so well geared up to having 4 people on pitch, then you might as well enjoy that. I'm just glad that you can actually wander around these planets without having to have that compulsory addition of randoms because of that friendly fire and because people kick others, and there's already politics happening in that direction with people not coming out with the correct loadout according to the lobby leader, and you're shoved immediately.
Fire in the hole!
Have I put these games in the right order? What would you add that I have missed? And do you think that Helldivers 2 should be number 1? And brackets, have you seen Fire Tornado yet?
Grenade!
I have of course been Couch Coop, and I will be seeing you down there. I will link as many of the standalone video reviews of these games mentioned in the comments and as annotations as possible. And if you are into your local split screen or couch co-op, I have a 4-hour 34 game review video recently uploaded. I will add that to the description.